Welcome to Home Dad Chat, brought to you by the National At-Home Dad Network. My name is Brock,
My name is Danny.
and we are here to talk about life as stay-at-home dads. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
No, I don't want much. I even love handmade crafts made of macaroni. Come on now, you should know me. Times I might eat too much. No worry about my weight, got the dad bod rocking on me. Sketches on my feet, cargo shorts look good on me. I'm a dad, that's what I do.
New first episode of the Home Dad Chat by the National At-Home Dad Network. I am one of the hosts. My name is Brock. With me tonight is my other host.
Hey, I'm Danny.
And Danny and I are stay-at-home dads, and we are part of the National At-Home Dad Network as members of
Have you had enough yet?
the organization. And so
It's great.
we just kind of wanted to
These
welcome
guys are
everybody
great.
that decided to take a chance and listen to this podcast.
Yeah, I've had enough.
Okay.
That's good. So I just want to point out that on YouTube it sounds way worse, but it came out. I'm like, wow, this is pretty good. Oh no, this is garbage too. Yeah. And I was using the same mic. I'm positive.
I'm still using the same mic. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Hey,
I
by the
don't
way,
understand.
welcome everybody.
Welcome to
Home
the
Dad
show,
Chat.
right? Yeah.
Welcome back to the show. Yeah, we decided to start with our very first opening episode from 5 years ago because we're
Why?
5 years old for this.
Why would we ever
for the
do that?
podcast?
Yeah. Happy anniversary.
Woo! We need the sound
Yay.
machine.
Yep. I
Gotta get that
definitely.
thing.
I need to put that. Yeah, I need to put that.
That's
in
on
my
the Christmas
shopping
list.
Yeah, it actually is on my Christmas list. But yeah, we won't get into that too much.
Oh my gosh, yeah, dude, the sound was hot garbage for sure. So many things learned in the past 5 years.
Yeah, I don't still feel like I'm a professional level podcaster, but I do feel way more confident what's going on around me, like what sound will pick up, what sound won't pick up, how my mic works more effectively, all of that, So yeah.
But I mean, still, yeah, we've learned a lot. We've been very, I feel like, just open to learning as well. And that's been a big part of it. But
Right.
we've also had a lot of really cool guests on and things like that and whatnot. But we're not here to talk about so much the podcast itself for 5 years. Like, we get it. All right. We understand. We've been here for 5 years. We've put out 241 episodes. It's like there's a lot that's gone on, but there's more that's gone on in just life in general since 2020.
Right.
Did you hear some really like scary music? Dun, dun. I can be the sound machine for the day. Yeah, 2020, man. Whew. I don't know that I want to get in that Wayback Machine. I feel like that's a scary place to go, but at the same time, too, a lot of great stories to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned earlier, if you looked at it, people always ask, where will you be in 5 years? Right.
Right.
And if you'd asked me January of 2020, I'd have had some very interesting, I'm sure I had no idea exactly where I wanted to be, but I would have goals, I would have expectations, but none of the things that happened would have been on them. None of that, like especially COVID. There's no chance in January, I think it was. And then by March, we were out of school and everything was going downhill, if I remember right. Where I am now, that's what we're talking about, is 5 years away. There's no chance I would have, if someone had said, hey, you're going to be living in Wisconsin. And I would say, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, eventually, no, I don't think that. Now, if you'd said Minnesota, which is where my wife is from, I'd be like, yeah, I could see maybe we do that. That'd be neat. We'd live up by our parents, but not in Wisconsin. So that's a big change. But also looking at our kids, I mean, my youngest was 6.
Gosh.
And it was, going into COVID, of course, there's a lot about that, but with quarantine, having to get all the kids set up on Zoom, which I thought was a stupid name. I don't know why you would have this. And then everybody's going to get on a Zoom call. And I'm like, but maybe it's a video call or a virtual call. We're going to Zoom call. Is that what we're doing? Because I like words and I didn't like Zoom. So yeah.
Yeah.
And just the experience everyone has on Zoom now, because you can ask anybody, even kids, hey, can we get on a Zoom call and have this meeting? And they're like, yeah, okay, I can set that up. And they can do it on their phone, their mobile device, laptop, computer, desktop, whatever it's at. And it's just the technology alone and how much our kids have experienced. And my child really will never remember a time when there wasn't Zoom. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, at 6, she might remember some stuff, but she won't recognize that it wasn't there, or that she does ever a time she didn't know how to make a PowerPoint, which still astounds me. You know,
Oh
and
yeah,
it's, by 6, she was like,
technology.
"Yeah, here we go." Doo-doo-doo-doo. What?
Yeah, the progression of what younger kids know technology wise now compared to 5 years ago is probably one of the more mind blowing things. You figure, especially things like a PowerPoint or whatnot, that's a junior high maybe type of thing, but to be a elementary school thing is pretty crazy. So,
Yeah, but it's
I,
perfect.
I
It
mean,
works so
it
well.
works. Yeah. It was a weird time, that's for sure. Lots of things going on that we're not going to get into within that realm when it comes
Yeah,
to,
let's stay personal. Let's stay in our
we'll
families
say in the
and
fatherhood side of things. Yes.
try that.
So my at that time, I was a full-time stay-at-home dad,
Mm-hmm.
and got the two kids. They're both in school at that point. Actually, I think my daughter was in pre-K at that point. So, but still, trying to juggle both of them at home, trying to stay up on schoolwork and everything. I also, too, because I knew how to use Zoom and different things from podcasting, I was actually helping some of the teachers even use it
Yeah.
as well, because a lot of them were like, I've never done this before. So that was another side to it. But also, too, it was like, okay, wearing masks around the city and not being able to see family, or hang out with friends the same way
Mm-hmm.
was another side of things. And I think too, it was also a time of like almost a reevaluation of, okay, like what does your family mean to you? And what does it mean to stay in communication with them? And can we connect in a different way that isn't, so much like personally together? Like I remember being able to, you did like game nights virtually,
Mm-hmm.
that was a big thing, or
Tabletop simulator.
right, or you had watch parties for movies, like you just everybody got on and watched a movie.
Not for movies though. For Tiger King.
Oh
Do
gosh.
you remember Tiger King?
Woo!
Right?
I'd
Right?
never watched it.
I'd
I did
never
not get
heard.
into
Oh,
it.
you didn't watch it at all. See, I'd
No,
never heard of it. You know what it was, but it just
I knew what it
exploded,
was. Yeah.
and I'm like, and it was like a train wreck. It was
Yeah.
awful in so many ways, but it was just enthralling.
It was
And
Jerry
yeah,
Springer in real life
yeah, and we would sit and we would
before
watch
they
it
get to
with
the show.
other people, like on the phone and stuff like that, like you said, and just getting that watch party of the most. I mean, and it was everybody that I knew. I guess I didn't know you. I guess I didn't really know you, Brock. But everybody I thought was watching it, and I thought I was like the last one getting on board this because there were so many people that were talking about it. But yeah, but getting together and watching movies, which is a great thing to do, really, if you think about it, because we have that skill in that we have that tool in our toolbox now. And so hanging out with your friends, okay, well, why don't we have a movie night on, whatever nights? Let's say Wednesday nights, we're just going to get together about 7 and everybody, flip on a movie and we'll just sit with our kids and chat back and forth and, or watch enthralled with a movie. Find people that watch movies like you watch them, if you're quiet or whatever. And I think it's been beneficial. I don't think it's a good thing. I want to be clear about this. I think we as a race of people, humans, mankind came in and said, well, this is garbage. What's the best we can do right now? And we did that. And we made good things. We made chicken salad out of chicken shit. That's what
But
humans
we're
do.
speaking of things like that kind of food stuff. So like sourdough was like all the rage.
Right. Yes.
Everybody had a sourdough starter.
Yes. Yeah.
And
I'm like,
that was all the thing.
I didn't have one and I felt so bad. I'm like, I don't know anybody local that would bring me, and I'm not going to go into town because I got to take my kids with me, So there was just no way to do it. But
Well,
it
and some
was
people treated them
everywhere.
like it was a family
Everywhere.
member. It was
Uh-huh.
crazy.
The names they came up with them too. Everybody had really cool, like fun names of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
And
that was one of the ones that really stuck out to me.
the biggest joke that went around for me is it was a meme that basically said, check on your extroverted friends. They are not okay. And I read that. I'm like, I'm really not okay, guys. I need somebody other than, because it was all child all day, and granted,
Mhm.
Marnie was there, but she's working. So she doesn't, she's in the literally she was in the closet. I don't know if you remember this, but the place that I originally recorded the podcast where that awful audio came from, we'd taken our little master bedroom closet and made it into an office, basically. Just take all the clothes out on one side and put a desk in there. And that's where she was. So she was behind two very thin doors, and I'm trying to keep the kids quiet as they go crazy around the house.
Well, and two, so some other things we had to switch up how we were going to do home dad con because you couldn't do it in person. And so we did a 1 day virtual dad at home.
Dad con at home.
Or dad con at home. And that was amazing. Like just all of the moving parts that had to be put into place. And, you know, the board had to learn a ton. We didn't really have a quote unquote like planning committee so much. It was more like the board was like, all right, I don't know how to ask any of these other guys to do this. Like you know, they've got their own things they're dealing with. We need to figure this shit out on our own kind of thing. It's like, and what do we do?
We got one of our members at the time, I think still a member, Robbie Samuels. Robbie Samuels came in and he was the cream of the crop. He still is. I mean, he made a career out of Zoom calls, about helping people learn how to use Zoom. He also did it for free every single week. He had a little hangout where you come and he can show you, answer your questions or whatever, little party, basically, little happy hour and learn about Zoom. And he's just a quintessential professional when it comes to things like this. Podcasting now, his podcast has been very interesting. And I will say at that time, without Robbie, I don't know if we could have done it. Now, I wasn't on the board or anything like that. I was just from the outside, but there was so much to put together that I saw him doing. So there was a lot, definitely, for him.
It was. I feel like we would have struggled dramatically with maybe even restarting Home Dad Con with the miss, because
other people did.
There were other conventions that did get completely annihilated and never came back, and it's really, really sad because they were doing
City
a lot
Dad
of good
groups.
Prior to that.
Also, a great example.
City Dad's group blew up.
I think that was a hole in their tire. I feel it really just kind of.
It was rough. Because everybody was pulling back their sponsorship. So, because everybody was watching their money on what was going on. So, that was rough. Well, and then on the other side of it, you had all of these dads who were trained. You had, okay, let's put it this way. You had these parents who were like, one of us is going to need to stay home with these kids because it's not like we can go ship them off somewhere, because then there's other kids, and then we're just inviting more of the, high probability of everything come away. And so you had these families making this decision, and all of these dads becoming work from home dads and stay at home dads full time, and just trying to figure it out. And then on top of it, the ones who were really like, I gotta find something that's going to help me to be able to do this. And the wave of dads that came into the National At Home Dad Facebook group and came in and were just like, hi, I'm new. I got thrown into this.
Yeah.
What is it that you guys are doing? And, from that, it was like things like the Dad Lounge emerged. Like Corey was amazing at pushing me to be like, hey, use the professional Zoom account that, we can get that you're already doing for a different podcast, and use it to bring these guys together on at least a weekly basis, which that got so popular. It didn't take long for it to be 2 times a week. And just the guys come in and be like, oh my gosh, it's so good to see you. It's so good, just sharing stories and everything. And then
it's still good now.
Oh no,
it's a little bit more relaxed. It's still amazing.
Yeah.
So if you can imagine how much more important it was for us at that time,
right?
That was, what's the words? A balm to my soul. That was just that time where you were finally able to be like, okay, look, this is what's going on. And everybody in the room is nodding their head like, that's what's going on.
Yeah. It was its own therapy session for sure. And then on top it, and then you had, Matt Strain was like, hey, like, why don't we do a webinar? And our first webinar can kind of be based around like homeschooling and what it looks like and everything. And what a great launching point for just showing a lot of the new dads like, hey, like, this is the support. This is what this organization does. We are able to pivot and make adjustments because as dads, as parents, like that's what we do with our kids. We make adjustments and we keep moving forward. And so the dad lounge, or so Dad X, which was just, I believe, I don't even think it was called Dad X when it first came out. I believe it was just like a webinar, basically, is what the name of it was. And that took off really well. And then you came to me in November and was like, I want to start a podcast. And I'm like, awesome. My podcast is sitting on the back burners. So I don't even have time right now to even try to line up the way I did my podcast. And you were like, well, let's do a weekly podcast. I'm like, ooh, I get to hang out with you weekly and we get to talk. Sign me up. Let's do this thing.
Yep.
So that,
looking forward to going into the bedroom, closing the bedroom door, going in the closet, closing the closet door, and sitting down in front of the mic. Okay. It's been a day.
right.
So,
Yep.
but yeah, it's some massive changes too and improvements both. And one of the things too, before we move on, is just talking about the number of dads that came into the organization who suddenly become the at-home parent. And that really, it changed a lot about the network at that time, because we started having dads that work from home.
Yeah.
And they would come in and say, look, I'm not an at-home dad. I still work. Yes. And we started looking into the specific statement of, are you the primary caregiver of your children or of your family? And that's really what we're reaching out to, is dads in that role. Just, is this what you do? Okay. So you're also, working a full-time job, like for your own example, your own life as an example. That's something that we recognize that still needs the same support and the same network that we have already in place for the full-time at-home parents or at-home dads. And bringing all of those dads into not only changed who we were, like in our idea of what an at-home dad was, but also changed the makeup of our organization in the community. We had a lot of people come into the community who were very well versed in so many other things, but didn't really have the parenting experience that, that we have. If you're doing it full time, you're a professional at that point. Paul Gordon made a very good point in the last year or so, because he was talking to some other dads and they kept, how do you know so much? How do you know this? How do you know, where'd you find that? How do you learn that? And he looked at all of us, and it was at, I think, the board retreat. And he said, this is because we're the professionals. And I think understanding that and being able to own that, if you've only been doing it a month, okay, maybe you shouldn't call yourself a professional yet, but recognizing the people that have been in the trenches, for years, especially, that have really learned so much and have so much to offer to bring back to it. And things like our community, the framework of it changed. We had fathers who were in their 60s and 70s show up. My kids are grown, but I was an at-home dad in, 1982 or whatever. And it was, wow, that's amazing. So the whole network, in a big way, the community really started to evolve into something that's much more supportive for just fatherhood in general.
Yeah.
Our mission is still at-home dads. That's still it. But with the understanding that there are dads out there that still need help, still need outreach, and we started working with Fathering Together for a while, and, other parenting, fatherhood organizations. And we said, they're on the same trajectory. They may be on a different path, different road, but we're still going to, wherever we're going. And I love being able to look back at that and see that growth, and that the flowering of things that came out of just true cow manure. 2020 was cow manure. And then we were like, well, we can grow flowers now. We can be a tree. We can do whatever. And I really love that. I wanted to make sure we talked about that before we moved on.
So anyway, so 5 years we are here, and so many things have changed.
We wanted to talk less about the podcast. I mean, because we could talk about how great the podcast is doing for us, how much we enjoy it, whatever, but we don't want to go back to the last 5 years of podcasts and try to find clips. That's a lot of work that we don't have time for. I have babies and I cannot.
I got kids.
Babies,
I got
and
things
a job,
to do.
and so it's a lot of time, and that's fine. But we talk more about the personal growth, things that have happened with our kids. Like I said, mine's gone from being a 6-year-old to starting her menstrual cycle. What? You know, that's just, it's such a huge change in that 5 years will give you in the life of your children. And those things are obvious. You know, I've got a kid in college now. I got another kid that's going to learn to drive this year and is looking at colleges already. And these are things that 5 years ago, I would have laughed, you know. But beyond our kids too, I think we might want to talk a little bit about personal growth, because there's some amazing things that happened for me in the last 5 years that I know I want to talk about, revolving around mental health. That's
Yeah.
it's a big
Yeah.
part of, you know, who I am and what I do. We did start Dad's Got to Talk 4 years ago, and I think it's four, and it's been going, you know, every week since, and it's a really great peer support group. And at the time, I needed it so badly. I needed a place where I could go and talk about the things that were really getting me, because in November of 2019, I had attempted to take my life. I got to a point, I was all done. Nothing could help. I couldn't find a way out. My therapist was good, but we hadn't done enough work together to really get me where I'm at. And I went from that to the point where I'm at now. And it's something that I remarked on someone else recently. And I said, you're reaching out to other people to see if you can help them heal. That means you have healed to the point where you're strong enough and you're aware enough that you can use that knowledge that you've got to help other people. That's the true sign of healing, right? And a psychologist said that to me a while ago. That's the true
interesting
sign.
that you say
Right.
that, because that just kind of brings to mind the fact of kind of what, like, you're talking about, like where we were 5 years ago and where we are now. Like, I specifically have just recently started sort of mentoring one of the guys at church. And I think if 5 years ago I'd have been in this place, I would have told this dumpster fire of an individual who I have great love for now. And trust me, he would agree that things were a dumpster fire, but have the just confidence to be able to speak very freely into him and also share the crap that I've gone through and just basically be like, hey, listen, like, I've been there. I know it. Like, I'm not going anywhere. There's really not anything that you can say or do aside from anything illegal that's going to get me to step away from helping you to get to a better place. And,
Mhm.
it's a one person at a time kind of thing. And I wouldn't have been in that spot 5 years ago, because 5 years ago, things were just a mess. And I remember, kind of coming into 2020, one side of me was like, all right, we're already isolated. Like, we're, at home dads, like, we kind of just do things and whatever. And then the other side of me just, and being like, crap, what do I do with these kids? I'm not a teacher. How do I function? How do I not
Mhm.
want to basically throw them out the door and be like, go versus let's have some fun, let's make some memories kind of deal, like, seeing any positive in all of the negative going on. So whereas now, like, I'm like, all right, like, I got a better handle on my anger, I got a better understanding of how to talk things through with my kids and be able to take a breath before speaking so that I understand, how I want to go about addressing high stress situations. Because kids are like, I got one that's almost about to be a teenager and one that she's 10 going on 20. So but yeah.
Yeah, it's such a huge difference in the amount of growth that forced us to do in a lot of ways. And a lot of us were faced for the first time with those big problems in our life. You know, quarantine, you could not escape your problems. Whatever your problems were, they were right there in the living room with you, watching, I don't know if we had Bluey back then, if it was a dark time, but watching TV and trying to, to have any moment of sanity in a day like that. And it really exposed, I think, for a lot of us, those areas where we needed help, the places where we were vulnerable in many ways, and developing beyond that, both personally and in our communities, being able to be the person that looks at someone else and, like, to use the word, to normalize talking about your mental health. I tell people, someone asks me how I'm doing, and I tell them, If you just
Yeah.
wanted a fine, that's not what I'm going to give you. How are you today? Well, I'm depressed, but I'm fine. I'll make it. It's cyclical. It'll go away. It always does. And people more and more are getting used to it here in this little town. Like, wait, what? What? You don't talk about that? Yeah, you do. But it gave us an experience that taught us to be stronger.
Yeah.
Now, I hate COVID. I hate it. It's one of the few things in my life that I feel like I have a burning hatred for, because it took away so many people that I loved. And I just God. But we look towards the positives. We look towards the growth. We look towards what that taught us. The unfortunate, but the things I know now about grief, I never would have known without COVID. I mean, I learned so much when other people passed away, my grandmother and my sister-in-law and my cousin, and yeah, it doesn't matter. But what I learned about those things, again, puts me in a place where I'm stronger and I can reach out to other people and say, hey, I noticed this was going on or this happened. I had a friend of mine who lives out in Hawaii whose wife just passed, and they've been together, I don't know, a long time, and they're older than I am, let's say. But looking at it and being able to know what to say, there are no good words when someone passes. It just sucks, and that's all it is. But knowing how to look at someone and not give them those placating, how are you? I'm fine type of question and answer. Do I want that knowledge? No, I don't. I'd trade it in a minute. But the reality is that's something we all have to face. And COVID brought that into my life, like a bucket of cold water.
Yeah.
And we've grown so much as individuals. I've seen the growth that you've had as well. And I think being able to look at it and to bring up some positivity out of it, to where we know, okay, I'm a better dad than I was 5 years ago. I'm a better man. I'm a better human. I'm a better husband. I'm a better podcaster. And with that, play that clip again. And oh my God, who are these people?
Well, I think too, for me, the other thing that, especially for like my wife and I, it gave us an opportunity to slow down and have conversations that we otherwise would be like, all right, I'm gonna go do this, I'm gonna go do that, and it's can't go do those things. And so it was like, all right, we're here at the house, what are we gonna do? And just almost kind of going back to a more, I don't know, baseline of dating and trying to find fun things to do together. And
being stuck in the house with them
yeah,
all day long. The other meme that I love was, it's the quote of someone says, Alexa, and then Alexa responds is, oh my God, when are you going back to work?
Well, for me though, one of the
that's
things
my
that
partner.
was big in our marriage was, we addressed the fact that we were having issues, like just connecting, like sexually, like physically, that kind of thing. And I was like, all right, like, what are we missing? What do we need to do? And just the two of us assessing it. Now, it helps that I have a wife who has a master's in counseling and is really good at talking through stuff like that. I know that's not the case with every couple, but we came to some pretty interesting, like, understandings of, hey, we're older. We're actually interested more in these things sexually and, just all these different things. And it's like having the chance to sit down and talk about it and kind of work through those things. And I think that a lot of couples, you had a couple of different things going on. There were those who were like that pressed into their marriage and were looking for ways to make it better. And then there were others who were like, oh, I really don't like you. And like, I can't be around you this often. And the amount of like divorces that took place during that time period was like kind of mind blowing to me, honestly. Like, it was really sad to hear so many of them. But at the same time, too, the process of even going through that changed because it wasn't like you could just go walk into the courthouse or whatnot because of protocols. So a lot of that got pushed back too. And so that to me was just from that side of things, like for being able to address personally the things going on in my marriage and then seeing other people's marriages and what was going on. That's kind of brought me to a point where now, my wife and I are doing marriage ministry stuff at the church and trying to like really just reach into, people's lives and have that opportunity to help them. So that I don't think that I would be in that place now had we not gone through that.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, you learn from it. You get wisdom from experience. You get wisdom right after you need it. I should not jump off the roof. You're right. I'm wiser now. But the reality of looking at what your relationship is and being able to talk about it honestly and openly, that's very difficult for a lot of people. A lot of men don't have lines of communication. So many men that I've talked to say, no, I don't have a single person, and we've mentioned this before, I can tell what's going on. And not even your partner. No, she'll laugh at me. She'll make fun of me. She'll ask me why I'm crying. She'll just shut me down. And so going from that, where you have now a couple that is under each other's feet all day, especially people stuck like in an apartment or something where you just don't have a place. My kids and I could go outside. We had 7 acres. We're good. We had a lot of time. I could just get out of this house. It still wasn't enough. Extrovert, needed more, but you do what you do. But being in that small space with someone that you're attracted to, you have been attracted to, but we lose that luster of the honeymoon phase. Oh, you're so amazing, you're incredible, you're great. And I think anyone that knows me knows that I love my wife. I am in love with my wife. I was not in love with her for a while, but I'm back in love with her now through talking and what have you. But she pisses me off like nobody else on the planet. Nobody on the planet makes me as frustrated as this woman. And I love her. I really do. And we've allowed that love for each other to overcome those personal idiosyncrasies and flaws and mistakes and just ways that we do things. And being able to be that open with her has been what's really kept us going and what got us through a lot of things, COVID being one of them, people passing away being another, and just big changes in our life. Moving across the country from Georgia to Wisconsin, which again, no way I would have said that's going to happen, but here we are and we're enjoying it more and more every day. But the changes that we went through taught us so much is the point. It was some garbage. It was hot garbage for a lot of things, but we're better because we survived it. We're stronger. We still have our vulnerabilities, but we know vulnerabilities don't mean weakness. We're still very strong because of the things that we run into and said, okay, how do we get over this? And again, some people had to say, we can't get over this. This has taught me a lot about us and I need to find someone else. And that happens. And that's very sad. So, but overall we're better, I think. And what I was worried about was pet adoptions. I saw a lot of posts, a lot of areas about people getting a dog. Oh, we just got a puppy. We got a puppy. And I'm like, oh no, sweetie, no, not now.
We did.
No.
That's what we did.
And for some people, it worked out great, but
we waited a year from into COVID. It was 2021 when we got our dog. So,
yep. And that's different, right? Because you're not quite in quarantine as much. But I was worried that the number of dogs that had gotten adopted or cats that had gotten adopted would be returning to the shelters, but actually, as opposed to my anecdotal experience, the actual evidence of it is that the shelters said that adoptions actually went down in number, which I'm actually in a way glad to see, because the number of people that could have gotten a dog and then not realize the commitment, not realize the number of things that you've got to do to keep a dog healthy and happy. Right. So I'm glad that also worked out. And I'm glad your dog worked out for you no matter when you got him.
Well, yeah, we lost our dog before we got our new dog. So that was the other part too, is we were kind of in a place where it was like, it feels weird not having a dog in the house. So we got a bigger dog than the dog we had prior. So that was different too. Also, she's a dog that needs to go out more and be more active. And that was the other thing that we were looking for. So going from a Shih Tzu poodle mix to an Aussie Shepherd is definitely a change in all activities for sure. So yeah, I
want to say about activity, the guy down the street, and I love this guy. I've never met him, but we always wave. He's a nice guy. Got a cool motorcycle, and he's got a pitty, right? He's got a pit bull, and I love pit bulls. I think they're just big cows, and I just love them, right? I know all dogs can be dangerous, but again, I've had my time with dangerous dogs. I'm okay. But he walks the dog, right? Every day, takes the dog for a walk. And on the way back, half the time we see him carrying the dog. And I finally stopped like, what is going on? That's a big dog to be. Now he's a big guy too, so he can pick up. But this dog's got to be 70 pounds. I mean, he's a big baby.
Oh, wow.
And she just gets tired and stops walking. And I have to get home, and she just sits down and then lays down. And she won't get up. And I'm like,
Yep.
I got nothing for you, buddy. I couldn't get a dog that big, or really, any dog. You'd have to pick them up.
Nothing like a 70-pound toddler. It's
Right.
So great.
Right.
Yeah.
And I love that experience that I've had with him with his dog, because I'm done with dogs for a while. Mine is. I think we're gonna have to put her down soon. So anyway,
Aw.
yeah, it is what it is. But anyway, 2020 taught us a lot. We had a lot of growth. We had a lot of things change with our kids and our relationships. The National at Home Dad Network has changed a tremendous amount in the last 5 years.
I mean,
you know.
financially, it's changed.
Structurally,
It's changed.
logistics. Oh man, you would not
Yeah.
imagine the amount of work we have done in the last year, really, last 2 years mainly, but last year, creating SOPs and workflows and just all of these things that a professional organization needs to have in place. But we never really knew how to do it.
Yeah.
We're all volunteers. We're like, I don't know how to make a workflow. Well, it's
Well,
really
I was
easy.
on I was on the board at that time, and I was like, whoa, this has gotten to be more intense than what it originally was. I mean, the guys
Yeah.
were talking nonstop in Slack. Like it was crazy. I mean, there were times where I think even my wife would be like, "Are you on the phone? Or you're on your phone again?" Jeez. But it was just like there were just so many moving pieces that were going on, and just trying to stay on top of everything. So
Yeah.
it was wild. And then too, just the ability to be like, all right, this is a core group of guys that like I can just share all of the stuff. And we have a specific special bond as the board members because we are doing business, but at the same time we're doing life side by side, and that was a whole nother element to it. I think for me it helped with also getting me ready for moving into actually having a job after COVID, because once the kids were back in school and everything was running back to its pretty much normals, that was the point in time when I started looking for actual work. And it was like, okay, I haven't done this in many years, and that now what does this look like? And so to be able to go in with the experience and knowledge of, yeah, like I've worked with a team of people from all over the country and we've done these things, and to be able to show that to somebody and then be like, wow, this was not a paid position and you were putting in all of this work for it. Yeah, we definitely want you to come in here and be a part of our team, that kind
Yeah.
of deal. That was huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of growth. Well, anyway, about out of time, man.
Yeah, man, that was a quick Wayback Machine for sure. Goodness.
Yeah.
But yeah, so 5 years in the books. It's crazy to think that.
Congratulations, sir.
Same to you.
Thank
Thank you to all of our listeners over those 5 years. If it wasn't for you, we would not be here. And we really appreciate all the shares and likes and comments. And,
Yep.
I know that our podcast has gotten to many people. Some even across the ocean have listened to have listened to episodes before. We have quite the demographic, actually has gotten much larger. It's not just dads listening to this show, which is very exciting to me because I love the fact that we're reaching out to more people. So hopefully you continue to listen, and we'll continue to put out episodes, and we'll be back next week with a new episode and a new start to a new season. So y'all have a great week, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Good night, everybody.
I'm a dad, that's what I do.